Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here with Jason Stoddard. This is the Shitter question and answer session live from the Shitter in Newhall. We just have a couple of questions we're going to answer for you guys, and we're ready to kick it off with Jason. So, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm wearing this mask, mainly because we have a lot of them. So, so if you like them, we do have them. But I'm going to take it off for this, so you can see how ugly I really am.
There we go.
Anyway,
can you tell us about any new products coming out?
Oh yeah, we had a lot of questions about that. I know you kind of you keyed me in on that. We can't talk about anything that's upcoming, I'm afraid, other than the stuff we've already spilled the beans on, which is usually pretty speculative. But which is to say, it may or may not happen, and it may happen a long time from now. We've mentioned we're doing a transport. That is continuing. I don't have a lot of data on that. People have actually asked, does the transport play anything other than CDs? I don't believe so. I do know we have a whole lot of metal for it, so I certainly hope we actually get that thing going. It's currently in firmware hell. Dave and Ivana are working on that. And we have, I have also mentioned, I think, off and on, I'd love to do a really big, crazy Loki. That's also very provisional, and it's just not, I can't give you a date on that. As far as other stuff we're working on, someone even asked, hey, what's your schedule till the end of the year? And it's like, yeah. Okay, here's a short answer. Whatever we can get done and ship. And I have no idea what that is. We'll get into more of that, because I think that probably brings us into COVID time.
Right.
It's that's a really good segue as to why things are kind of weird. Right
So
now.
how has COVID kind of affected shit in general? Did you have to shut down for a little bit?
Yeah, well, we actually kind of fell into being an essential business, so we've been operational. We've done a lot of things to change. We're actually currently still running 2 and really probably more like 3 shifts. To actually keep the number of people in the building to a minimum. We're doing all the sanitary procedures. Everyone's wearing masks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's been kind of constant, since this started. The problem is that by having 2 or 3 shifts, because we basically allow people to come in so they don't overlap, is our efficiency goes down. We're less efficient building things. We're less efficient shipping things. Our shipping windows get smaller. And so we get to piss off a lot of you guys, unfortunately, when things are a little late. Also, some of our suppliers have gotten interesting. Some of them have pushed out things from 2 weeks to 12 weeks to now we're hearing like 24, which kind of means like we have no idea when these products are going to be available. So some of the stuff's gotten hung up. I did this huge list at the beginning of the year. Oh, we're going to do like all these kind of things in all these different areas, kind of trying to not be too specific about it. We're going to do less than half of that, mainly because a lot of the items that we're working on are big and complex. Last thing we want to do is something big and complex right now when it's already hard to ship and it's already hard to build things. So what we're doing is we're doing what we can to take care of everyone. And I think that might even segue into people asked about Europe, right, and what's going on with distributors. Yeah, it's like we haven't been able to build enough stuff. Bottom line is the distributors may not have gotten all the supplies that they need. So we're trying to fix that. I don't have a timeline on when. It's usually best to just email orders@shit.com to see what the current status is, because I know that's changing in real time. And then we have different constraints. It's like, for example, like on Magni 3 Pluses or Magni Heresies, we have tons and tons of boards, and we have no metal right now. So we're waiting for metal to actually make units to ship. And that's kind of where we're at. That's how it's affected us. We have thankfully had no cases. Things have been good in that respect, but it's definitely, it's not a usual year, and it's been a challenging year.
So yeah, we're here at the Shitter, and a couple of events ago we had a Thunderdome where some of the products were duking it out to live in the product line for shit. Are you guys going to have any more of those? Any more Thunderdomes?
Good question. I actually consider pretty much everything we introduce to be a Thunderdome now. That means that essentially everything is a test. It may not be introduced with another product to go up against or another series of products to go up against, but everything we're doing is kind of experimental. It's like, let's see how it goes. It may go very well, and it may not go as well as we expect. As far as the classic Thunderdome of let's introduce 2 or 3 or 4 products at once and see who wins, yeah, I'm sure you're going to see more of those. You're probably going to expect that in 2021 and after. Again, this year has been super interesting.
And another part of the events here at the Shitter was a blind A/B experiments that we did with a multitude of different products. The Duprees that we already mentioned, we did needles, we did a lot of very interesting product comparisons in a blind A/B scenario. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you found interesting or surprised you from those experiments that we did, or did you have a favorite all of them?
Oh boy, for that I think I need a drink here. I know there's some other guys in the business doing pints and stuff, and so that's great. Now I'll do wine since we're in California, at least for now. Don't worry, we're not leaving California anytime soon, but we may be expanding. Anyway, sorry, to come back to blind testing. Biggest surprise is how hard it is to actually tell the difference between products. We were testing a Valey 2 today, and Tyler goes, so, what's the sign out on that thing? And so I put on the analyzer, and it's literally like 40 dB. It's, 40 dB loaded, And I said, it's funny. It's actually hard to tell the difference between that and a Magni Heresy. He's like, so something that's like almost 120 dB cyanide and something that's like 40, loaded at 1 volt into 32 ohms. He says, that's hard to tell. I said, yes, it is actually hard to tell, because you're sitting there, you're instantly switching, everything is level matched. It's a lot more difficult than you might expect. I threw in the Valey 2 into the test because I figured, there's something easy to pick out. You may not be able to pick Magni 3 Plus and Heresy, but you can do Valey. And Valey proved to be pretty hard. I eventually, got them all right once and said, that's cool. Time to have another glass of wine, because it is difficult. And Mike Moffat, I wish he could be here. He'll probably be in a future one. He used to say that things kind of integrate over time. So if you instantly switch, you may not hear the difference that you're going to hear after you've listened to something for weeks or months, and then you've switched, and then it's more apparent. It certainly seems to be that way, but definitely when you start actually level matching and actually doing instant switching and covering up what it is, it gets a lot harder than you expect. And then at that point, people are going to ask, well, then why do you do really expensive stuff? It's like, well, it's because that's what A, that's what people want. B, it is different, different enough, especially the tube stuff, that could be what everyone prefers. And what I prefer to look at it is like, let's do the best we can on the least expensive stuff, and then let anyone else choose, if they want to go up the ladder. If you hear a difference, great. And if you don't, that's fine by me as well.
We have an online request that we do one with 2 Vidars versus 2 Asiers. Do you have any comments on the sound of the Vidars versus the Asiers outside of what's already online?
That'd actually be interesting because they do. To me, they sound quite a bit different, especially if you're talking more difficult to drive speakers. I personally typically gravitate towards Vidar, but that's because I usually have speakers that are hard to drive. Mm-hmm. The Asiers, that would actually be a really, really good comparison. When we can actually have people in here again, I'd like to set that up. I'd also like to. I really want to set up. No kidding. Magni Modi versus Yggdrasil and Ragnarok. I want to do the least expensive and the most expensive just to see, because I am going to laugh if I choose the wrong one. It's like at that point then you can go, Okay, well, I can comfortably buy the $100 product, if the guy who designs it can't tell the difference.
From my experience too, I thought one of the more interesting ones was the pre-Shootout, the actual original Thunderdome, because I was surprised at the difference, the dramatic difference, at least to my ears, that the pre's made. I always kind of think of it. I think a lot of people think it was like a pass-through device, but it really had a way of culturing the sound and changing it and shaping it, and it was a wonderful, fun experiment. And really, no major drawbacks to any, just different flavors.
That's actually one of the ones that shocked me too, because I was worried about that. We were the pre-experiment that Brian's referring to is we were switching just the tube, a different type of tube, and it was hidden. It was actually they were in PVC pipe. We had a reader who sent in a bunch of blinded tubes, and we didn't even know what they were. And I'm like, wow, on a Saga with one tube and it's only a buffer, I don't know if we're going to be hearing a lot of differences. But even level matched, even blind, it was pretty significant. When they switched that first one, I'm like, oh, good, it's radically different enough. Right. And second, it's like, wow, that is a big difference, and I don't like the way it sounds. So yeah, it was really, that was one of the more interesting ones, because I wouldn't expect that.
So are your products made in the USA or designed and built in California?
Yeah, actually, made in USA is one of those interesting phrases, because technically, unless you literally make every part, every screw, every resistor, everything in the product in USA, you cannot put made in USA. It has to be assembled in USA or made in the USA of foreign domestic components, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see on the back of our products it now says assembled in USA. On the site, we disambiguate that. We make it more clear, hopefully, by saying designed and built in California. We design stuff here and we build it here, and by that we mean the boards, the chassis, the transformers, all the major parts of the product are actually built here in the U.S. by companies, by U.S. companies, which it's a choice we make. We understand that there's lots of choices, and it's still a global economy, and we're always up front when the wall warts are made in China, or actually these days I think we're transitioning over to Taiwan. So we're clear what's made here and what isn't, because it matters to some people. Some people don't care, and that's fine. That's fine too. But we do try to make things here, pack it here, support it here, service it here, everywhere. And so yeah, if you're in the U.S., that's a good deal. If you're overseas and our distributors don't have any stock, maybe not so hot.
Someone online asked, what happened to the Freya without tubes?
Oh, Freya S. Yeah, we sold out of them. It lost the Thunderdome. So we actually did both products, the Freya S and Saga S, without tubes. They lost the Thunderdome. And Denise she's over here actually doing a thumbs down. And I agree. I like the way the Freya S sounded. I have a Freya S at home. But Freya Pluses, everyone seems to love them. Can't keep them in stock. I think speaking about possible future products, I know I actually did a Blue Sky thing on one of the forums saying, hey, what if we actually took Freya S but put it like in a Saga chassis, at a lower price, and basically made that the Saga 2. So the Saga becomes non-tube, and it's actually a solid state thing. And people seem to be fairly warm to that idea, so it's something we might play with. Again, don't get too excited about this happening tomorrow. There's a lot of dev work to do on that. But if we did, I think it'd be kind of interesting. Maybe we have a Nexus preamp and a smaller chassis with balanced outputs, and we have a tube preamp and a bigger chassis with balanced outputs. We'll see.
There's also some debate online as to what speakers are those in the background. Do you know what the model is for those?
Actually, we have Magnapan LRSs, and then we have the Salk Song 3s. And I think there's a vanilla Salk 3s. I don't think they have a lot of flavors of them, but we like both of them. The Song 3s are easier to drive. The LRSs are you're using a Vidar on that. I'll tell you what the blind difference between a Vidar and an Azure on those is. One goes click and you hear nothing. So then that'll be the Azure. So there you go.
So the new Modius includes balanced outputs. In your opinion, what are the benefits of a single-ended versus balanced? Does balanced always sound better? Are there any shit DACs that sound better in single-ended to your ears?
That's a good question, too. I think there's been a lot of focus on balanced outputs. A lot of people focus on, let's do everything balanced. I'm not certain that that's the best way to do things. If you're actually doing it from the subjective perspective of what sounds best, I don't think there's a lot of correlation between balanced is always better than single-ended or vice versa. Modius includes balanced outputs for a couple reasons. One is the DAC chip we're using is inherently balanced, so might as well offer that. The other is, a lot of people want balanced outputs. They want a full system. A really popular stack is actually a Modius and then a Jotunheim. But it also has really good single-ended outputs, so you can also do a Modius and an Asgard 3 and save a ton of money, or you can use Modius and everything. I think it's best to focus on what sounds best rather than what the connector is, because we try to do the best in both cases on our DACs and on our products. And honestly, I'd be totally happy with, say, an Asgard 3 and a single-ended DAC. I don't think you need to have balance. The huge advantage of single-ended, of course, you save a ton of money on cables. I mean, you'll notice that cables are a lot more expensive. And single-ended is going to be more universal. Someone's like, why are you using an Asgard 3 rather than a Magnus? I'm like, because I can use all my headphones with it. I don't have to re-terminate it, in balanced. So it's more of a functional thing. You can get into theoretical, balance rejects noise better, but the cable runs you're talking about, especially if it's a pist and it's it's 10 inches long, I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference.
Well, this question came from HeadFi. It's kind of a long one, but here it is. Mike's gain system, developed with Nelson Pass for mobile fidelity, is said to have a reverse combo burrito filter. In Schiit's true multi-bit DACs, the digital filter's main calling card is that it retains all original samples. How does that work in reverse for the gain system? What are the main differences compared to an off-the-shelf digital filter in the ADC domain?
We need longer questions because then I can drink more. Okay. I'll answer what I can, which is very little. This is where we actually need to get Mike, Dave, and Ivana, or everyone in. I can't answer a lot of the digital questions because I am the analog guy here. What I do know is that Mike and Nelson Pass did the original Gain 1 system for mobile fidelity. And there are a number of discs that were mastered using the Gain 1 system. I do know that Yggdrasil, Gungnir, Bifrost, all of our multi-bit DACs also use they have the same type of filter, the same type of what Mike likes to call the combo burrito or mega combo burrito filter. We have the complementary version of that filter. So we do like to actually use the gain system stuff because that is kind of a true kind of closed-end system. It was mastered with the same filter as you play it back with. Beyond that, I don't know much about it, and locking yourself into 300 or 400 CDs that were mastered with that is pretty limiting.
So you have an ongoing kind of dialogue, a book that you've written that is constantly updated on headfi.com.
Yep.
In your chapter about the Ragnarok 2 on headfi, you mention a con to the pivot point topology, that it's only weakly differential. What does weakly differential mean, and what is the difference between weakly and strongly differential?
Yeah, boy, that's getting super technical. And I mean, other than saying one is weakly and one is strongly differential, essentially, Nexus will actually create a much more balanced differential signal than pivot point. Pivot point works. Nexus works much better. That's really about all you can do with that, I'm afraid.
This is a more technical question as well. Is the Asgard 3 a log taper pot?
Yes. As far as I know, every piece of audio gear for volume would use a log taper pot, unless you're talking about something very oddly designed. To expand on that a little bit, there are different kind of tapers. There's a linear taper and log taper. Linear is what you'd see like in a balance pot or something like that. Log taper is something you see in a volume control. So it's more gradual as it comes up, and then it actually slopes up, and the volume ramp gets faster at the end, because that's more how we hear. Asgard and all of our stuff use actually custom Alps 10A taper pots, which is a deeper log than a 15A taper, which is typical. And if you look at Alps, you can get super into this, and they have 30A tapers and 20A tapers and 15 and 10. They may even have a 5A taper, which I've never actually played around with. But yes, it is.
So you guys make solid state products, you make tube products.
Mm-hmm.
With the availability of certain tubes decreasing every year and becoming more costly, what do you see for the future of tube amplifiers?
Basically, that everything that we're going to be designing with tubes will actually have to use new production tubes. It's a great question. I had him include that question because what was I doing last night? Well, Alex was like, oh, by the way, we're out of 6BZ7s for a new run of Bailey, and so can you find some? And it looks like we've actually cleaned out the world supply of them, or at least the ones that are available in large quantities. So guess what? Bailey's probably going to end up getting a new production JJ or Electro-Harmonics tube because we actually can't get NOS anymore. We've moved out of that already from the 6SN7 type, and the only thing we can get in any quantity are like the Russian tubes, 6N6P, 6N1P, which continue in Valhalla. And that's basically it. Tubes are getting NOS tubes are getting harder to find, and new production tubes are actually getting a lot better. So we're kind of moving everything over in that direction.
Has Schiit ever considered an HDMI ARC input on something like the Ragnarok 2? Seems a little esoteric, but a Rag 2 with multi-bit DAC and HDMI over a phono input, to easily integrate integrated amp into a mixed-use audiovisual system with minimal cords, supplies, dongles, etc.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a great question, in that I can just answer that simply, no. Or I can expand on that a little bit more. A lot of people have said, hey, you said you'd never do this and you'd never do that or whatever. And in actuality, I think we've only said we will never do two things. One is anything that needs software. Like, if you need a phone app to run it, if you need a phone app to run a streamer or something like that, we're not doing that. That is not us. We do not want to be a software company. That's fine. There's lots of people making great stuff there. Please enjoy their products. The other is like anything that relies on proprietary standards, such as HDMI. HDMI is a very crazy standard. In fact, they have what they call plug fests every year. They may not have it this year, but where literally people get together with HDMI equipment, plug them together, and see what does and does not work. Does that sound like something that we should be doing? No, I mean, let's leave that to Pioneer. Let's leave that to the big guys who are playing with HDMI. Let's leave it to Emotiva. Let's leave it to the guys who are doing that. So you won't be seeing any HDMI products from us, and you won't be seeing anything that requires the actual software or an app. Other than that, I think we're pretty open, and I'm sure the next question will probably be about speakers or something. So
that definitely rules out a streamer because it would be mostly likely app controlled then.
Definitely rules out a streamer.
What about PYST, PIST products?
Cables, yeah.
Any expansion into the cable front? Where do you stand on the whole cable conversation? Well, I think you talked about that one already a little bit.
We actually just expanded the line. Literally, we're working with a startup California company called Snake Oil Cables. Love the name. I think it's wonderful. They're doing the longer pissed cables now, or I guess more pissed. I don't know. They're doing 1 meter and 2 meter RCA and XLRs. They're also doing the smaller cables. And for now, you can actually choose, do you want straight wire or do you want snake oil? They're both great cables. They both have, their good qualities. We don't really get too much into the cable debate. So, if you want to ask, which one sounds better, which is brighter, I don't know, guys. I take the stuff home, I plug it together, I listen to it. That's sorry, that's kind of the way it is. And, I don't use a record player. I have a Ragnarok 2 on my desk because I can run speakers and headphones. I'm fairly simple at home. But yeah, I'd like to do, eventually, who knows? Maybe speaker cables. They're tough because you got to have all these different lengths. Maybe. We'll see. And there's a train going by, but
yeah. Have you explored transformer output for balanced, or is it outside the price envelope for your target products?
Oh, great question. Yeah, usually not only outside the price envelope, if you're talking about a good balanced product, but if you want to get eviscerated on measurements, transformer is a great way to do it. Transformer coupling of balanced signals is actually a wonderful way to do it, and it does actually provide the isolation you need, etc. But unless you're talking a true $1 transformer, and we're talking something that would increase the price of Iggy by $200, $300, $400, $500 at retail, then you're not going to be getting great performance. We've tested a lot of them. We've run them through the AP, and their performance, especially at low frequencies, is not great. So they do have a particular sound, and I do actually kind of like the way they sound. But I think that for us, trying to optimize balanced and single-ended, as their own thing, like we did in Modius, is more like the future, where we have a separate stage for each one. Because people don't like the summed, output that we've done before. So a lot of people want us to take one phase of the analog, like we're doing in other products. People seem to like that better, but Modius seems to be the best overall approach, where there's a separate output stage for each.
There is a question about the turntable. I just wanted to confirm that the turntable that you sell is out and currently available for sale.
It is out and available, yeah.
That's pretty much it. There's one question I wanted to say. Where can people, if they'd like to, buy a cool branded hat with your brand?
Same place you buy the masks. We actually have a little swag shop, on the site now. It's not a big deal. It's not it's not what we do. We'd rather be building equipment, but we do have some stuff. I mean, if you want, you can kit yourself up with a shirt, a hat, socks, a mask, and a coffee cup. Yeah, I said socks. If anyone ever shows up with all that gear on, I'm gonna be very weirded out. Okay. I use the coffee cup. I like the coffee cup.
It's cool.
And there's one comment. There's one more question I'd like to ask, just for fun at the end. Steve Simpson would very much like to know how the Corvette drives.
I like it. It's I mean, if you're, it's funny. You almost have to be familiar with Corvettes to understand the complement of, like, it's so much like a real car now. It's actually, it's a real no compromise car anymore. Corvettes have always been kind of like, yeah, they're fast, but they're kind of shoddy, or it's neat looking, but they aren't bolted together very well. It seems like they really nailed it this time. And yeah, for people not in the know, yeah, I went out to Bowling Green to pick up a new Corvette. It's something I would have done with or without shit. I bought my first new Corvette when I was, in 1993, which was far before Schiit or even Centric. So I've been doing this a long time, and this is just kind of the latest thing. Wife said, hey, it might be interesting to pick it up at the museum. So that's what we did, and it was a fun trip. But yeah, it's just a thing.
There's one more question that came in: is why the switch from tungsol to JJ tubes in things like the Lear 3 Freya? Was it the availability?
COVID. No, actually, it's availability. It may be COVID. We have noticed that even on new production tubes, things are fairly sketchy. as far as availability. And so we are actually shipping either JJ or tongue saw, depending on what we can get. We specify it is a premium new production tube. It's probably at the point where if you wanted a particular one, if you want JJ or tongue saw, and you contacted us when you order, we could probably give you what you want. It'll be one of those two. But yeah, it's really weird. I mean, so like I said, some of the suppliers have kind of just gone either incommunicado or the lead times have gone way out. And tubes are one of those where it's like, how do we even ship these? And Freya Plus is a complex product to build as it is. So between shortage on transformers, shortage on boards, shortage on metal, shortage on tubes, it's kind of like the never-ending. It really is the never-ending back order, and people have been like, "How do I get this?" It's like there's no way to do it other than get in line and wait. Hey guys, I waited a year to get the Corvette. I ordered it literally in July 2019. So, I'm not saying Freya's going to be that bad. I'm hoping it's not going to be that bad because, oh my God, And it's not like we take your money up front, but I think you're going to be looking at Freya rolling back orders into sometime next year when hopefully we can get caught up. I've been ordering double runs, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think that's about all the questions we got. Jason, thanks so much for joining us here at the Shitter. This is Brian Hunter helping out with the show. And anything else you want to add at the end? Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, it'd be good to get some other people in here. Alex runs the show, on day-to-day basis. He can answer a lot more questions about availability. Dave and Ivana do a lot of the detail, design. Mike is the digital systems guy. He's been a little scarce lately. I think, he's kind of enjoying himself up in Agua Dulce because. I don't think he's traveling as much, in this COVID time, so he might be a little quieter. But heck, I mean, even having Tyler in here, he's more the money guy. He really wanted a title of director of miscellaneous, and it's actually it's closer to what he does. Having all those people tell the story because it's not just me anymore. I just have a big board full of wacky things to do and hopefully knock some out. Hopefully some by the end of the year. Yeah, it's literally every day I go in and go, oh, yeah, okay, well, we'll see. And that's it.